What is something that I think I am better at than most people? Well, I don't really think too much about that question because I never compare myself to other people. Um, Maybe random doodling, I guess. The organic nature themed doodles. I think that's something I think I'm good at. But then again, as I said, I never compare myself to other people with anything. Um, that's really all that I can think of right now. There's not much of anything else. As I said, I never really compare myself to other people. Because the best that you can really be at anything is the best that you are. So there's not really, if you want to be motivated and strive to be better, then you could compare yourself. But like to me, it's kind of pointless because you're not that other person. So comparing yourself to other people is kind of irrelevant. It's sort of like trying to compare, two people that are completely different and comparing it to two completely different types of, trees or animals or something. It's like comparing, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say you're someone that's really strong, but you have no endurance, and genetically you're not built for endurance. And you have someone else that is built for endurance, but genetically, they're not very physically strong. So the person that's good at endurance running or enjoys doing endurance running, if they just compare themselves to the people that are really good, then they're going to have these unrealistic expectations and they might just give up when they start. But I like to be realistic about stuff, I like to push myself and keep trying, but I want to be realistic about it. So, yeah, abstract doodling is something I think I'm pretty good at because I've done it for such a long time, and yeah, probably. Well, it's been 25 years now. I've been doing random doodles, which reminds me, I have been asked before about how am I not very popular as an artist or no one really knows of me. I don't really think about that or pay attention to that really. If a lot of people know about me, then so be it. But I think a lot of times, when somebody gets very popular or known, they sometimes might change themselves in a bad way. That doesn't make their life any better. It might make it more difficult or bad. So I just keep drawing. I just keep doodling every day, making things, see what I make, and then if I make something interesting, I'll sit there and look at it and think about it for a little bit, and then it'll kind of motivate me to think of other things that I want to doodle and make. And then from then on, I just keep doodling things. But there's other things that I've done. Sprinting and powerlifting, arm wrestling, a lot of physical stuff. I do poetry. I've never done any writing for stories though. Maybe if someone from an outside perspective, they would think that I'm good at sprinting, powerlifting, arm wrestling, poetry, doodling, I think. But I think maybe I'm good at doodling. I mean, I think I think the other thing is that if you think you're the best in the world or something, I guess it could be two ways. You can tell yourself that you are the best in the world or something, and it can just be you telling yourself that, and it motivates you to be, positive and keep doing it. Or you could tell yourself that you're the best in the world or something, and so then therefore you give up because there's nothing else to strive for. I guess it could go either way, but it just depends. Then again, it depends on the person. So, two different people can have two completely different perspectives on something when it comes to achieving a goal or becoming good at something. Someone might want to do it because they want to be popular, but for me, I don't really care about that. But I do know that at the same time, you have to be popular to make any money from it. But I don't care about being popular or having a whole bunch of friends or anything. So I'm kind of in a dilemma with that. I'd rather have like one or two friends that I get along with, because I'm so busy doing stuff and thinking about things that I don't want to spend a lot of time just having a whole bunch of friends that is just to where I'm not having any deep conversations about anything. I wouldn't really find it that interesting. So when it comes to making money as an artist, it's like it's kind of like this dilemma to where you've got to figure out something that works for you, that you can make some money doing it. But the two different ways would either be one, being just super talented, naturally very talented at it. And by that, I mean, you pick up on things very fast. You learn very quickly. You have very good hand and eye coordination and hand coordination. Or you're, a very social person, extroverted, and you talk to a lot of people. So someone could be lacking in the artistic skill, but make up for that and their socializing ability by being able to make friends very easily and have a lot of friends. Or you can have someone that's just very naturally talented and very good at drawing that they don't really even have to say a word. Their art speaks for them. And so they don't really have to put themselves out there so much and socialize and have a lot of friends. They can just be very talented, and someone sees that drawing or painting that they've done, and everybody has a question about it. And then you have others that might not be technically as skilled at drawing or painting. They may even be very far behind, 10, 20 years behind in skill. But yet, because they're very extroverted, they're able to get their work out there. But for me, I don't really compare myself to other people when it comes to my drawing. And I'm not an extroverted person. I'm more introverted, and I think about things a lot. And I just focus on trying to get better at drawing. But I don't think I was ever naturally talented at drawing, because I remember the times when I was in art class, the other students, let's say there's 20, 30 students in the class. Out of the 30 students, 2/3 or 20 of them out of 30 never did any drawing in their life. Like practically none. If they did, it was like at random. They weren't even, And then you've got the other 10 students of those 10, I would say maybe 5 was into drawing. And then, well, let me try to think here. So out of the 10, you'd have some that were, very into drawing, but they weren't like super skilled at and talented. And then you had a couple that were very talented, and they were really into drawing. And then you'd always have that, a couple of random people they would have no interest in drawing. They thought it was boring, didn't like to do it, but they just would draw this amazing drawing. And yet you've been drawing, for many, many, many years, practicing over and over. And a lot of those students that said that they would never be able to draw as good as me. Now, I remember being told this in elementary, middle school, and high school. I was the one that they thought was just naturally talented. But I did so much drawing all the time, every day, over and over and over. And the same students in my classes that said that they would never be able to draw as good as me, by the end of the art class, they were technically more skilled than me after one semester, of just 3 months, than the time I spent drawing, of 10 years already at that point. Let's say it's my senior year, for example. I'm 18, and I've pretty much been drawing constantly since I was 5 years old. That's 13 years of drawing that I've had, of drawing portraits, abstract, doodles, all that. I didn't really do any painting or anything until I was a bit older. Probably not until I was like 20. So I had 13 years of experience drawing. And most of the students that, almost all of the students that said that they could never draw as good as me because they weren't as naturally talented, by the end of the semester, after 3 months, they surpassed me in technical skill, even though they never practiced prior to this. And so it made me think, I'm like, well, they never even tried or really put any effort, and they put in a tiny little bit of effort, and then they exceeded me after 3 months, even though I spent 13 years practicing. But they had thought that my drawing ability was just because I was talented. So, they never put the work into it yet. And then when they did, they were so good, and then they didn't have any interest in it, and they just gave up. They never did it after that. They just did it to get some, to pass a class or to get some credit or something. And then there was always maybe 2 or 3 students out of the class that were just amazingly skilled, super talented. They never even practiced in their whole life, and they're just drawing so near perfectly and not even trying really. And then they would say, oh, drawing's boring, I don't even have any interest. I don't know. So I never had any natural talent for drawing. I just draw a lot. And the thing that I often see is that a lot of the times when someone tells me that they'll never be able to draw as good as me, I think they fail to realize that, I've been drawing since I was 5 years old, doing it for, 6 hours a day, pretty much every day, and sometimes in the weekend drawing, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours, and other days during the week drawing longer. So if I'm drawing, maybe I would put it somewhere around maybe, I'm averaging 8 hours a day, probably. So that's, what is that? That gives me a lot of drawing time. That's, about 56 hours a week. So 55, 60 hours a week I would say more like 60, because in the weekends I draw more. So 60 hours a week of drawing and practicing. I spend drawing. And I actually spent more time drawing when I was younger because I didn't have to worry about work and all the other things when you get older and living on your own. So I spent longer time than that in drawing. So, let's say I'm averaging 60 hours a week of drawing for 13 years. And then all these students said that they couldn't never draw as good as me. And then after 3 months of barely trying in class, they had more drawing skill. So I think what a lot of it comes down to is that sometimes people don't realize how much effort and work goes into something. And then when they see that you are putting that much work into it, they don't want to try, or they just give up. And yet they barely put any effort into it, and they're like really, really good at it. I think that maybe that's probably one reason why I just don't care for, comparing myself to other people, because, it's kind of like, what's the point? Because a lot of people don't realize how good they actually are at things. And I mean, I see a lot of people that they're not trying that hard at all, and they don't think that they have any talent at anything, and yet they're doing better than a lot of other people with certain skills. Like if I was to compare myself to Leonardo or Michelangelo and say and criticize all of my drawings, then it's kind of hard to do that, being that it's a completely different style. He didn't really make abstract doodles. Everything was very technical, and that requires a completely different type of skill and talent. That's not something that I really have interest in right now. Drawing things very technically and trying to make it all perfect, it takes the enjoyment out of drawing for me. It doesn't make it to where it's stress relieving or enjoyable or anything at all. It just becomes more stressful then. So maybe I do, maybe I don't have the ability to doodle better than other people. I guess that would be for others to decide. But as I said, I never really worry about comparing myself to other people. So let me know what you think, and I'm gonna go think about this a bit more and see what conclusions I can come to. But thanks for stopping by. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you all later. You have a great day.